Transtastic, eine envigalaktische Radiosendung mit Daniel Schiano und Cornelia Kost.
Hallo Daniel.
Hallo Cornelia. Und du warst gerade in Israel.
Ja, das stimmt.
Magst du mal erzählen, wie es da war? Also mich würde interessieren, was dich da besonders beeindruckt oder bewegt hat, was dir an dieser Reise besonders gut gefallen hat.
Das sind die Menschen, die ich getroffen habe und die wir jetzt in dieser Sondersendung zu Israel hören. Das waren ganz viele wichtige und spannende Gespräche, durchaus auch kontroverse Gespräche. Das werdet ihr gleich in den Interviews hören, aber umso wichtiger auch Positionen direkt aus Israel von kompetenten Leuten zu hören.
Und konntest du auch von dem Land ein bisschen was sehen? Also hast du da auch besondere Orte gesehen, die vielleicht beeindruckend gewesen sind?
Ich glaube, was am beeindruckendsten war, das waren die historischen Stätten in Jerusalem. Das war schon ein besonderer Moment, in der Grabeskirche zu sein, aber es war auch besonders die Stelle zu sehen, in der eine Rakete eingeschlagen ist. Es war besonders an dem Ort des Massakers vom 7. Oktober gestanden zu haben und im Hintergrund Schüsse oder Kanonendonner zu hören aus dem Gazastreifen. Da gehe ich mit einer Reihe von ganz wichtigen Eindrücken nach Hause.
Ja, das stelle ich mir sehr bewegend vor, vor allem den Ort des Massakers, dieses Festivalgelände. Gab es denn Situationen, die gefährlich gewesen sein könnten oder wo du dich gefürchtet hast oder die den Eindruck gemacht haben, es könnte gefährlich sein?
Unbedingt gab es das. Auf der Pride selber gab es eine Situation, wo Rauch aufgestiegen ist, und zwar sehr intensiver Rauch, wo die Menschen in meiner Umgebung schon anfingen zu gucken, woher der Rauch kommt und sehr besorgt waren, und vor dem Hintergrund, dass da ja wirklich sehr, sehr viele bewaffnete Menschen herumgelaufen sind, die zum Schutz der Veranstaltung abgestellt worden sind. Das sind also mehrfach Hundertschaften von Polizistinnen dort eingesetzt gewesen, alle mit geladenen Waffen. War das schon ein Moment, wo auch ich Angst hatte.
Es war ja nun auch mitten in der Kriegszeit, war auch Militär zu sehen in der Stadt?
Ja, es war in Israel ständig Militär zu sehen an allen Ecken und Enden. Aber tatsächlich konkret eingesetzt waren Polizeieinheiten, bewaffnete Polizeieinheiten.
Ja. Ich stelle mir das sehr beängstigend vor, aber auch aufregend. Also es ist ja, Israel ist ja durchaus ein geschichtsträchtiges Land und was Religionen und so angeht, also wirklich eine spannende Sache. Du hast Interviews mitgebracht. Erzähl mal.
Genau, wir fangen an mit Ariel Alvarez Pereira. Das ist ein queerer Aktivist aus Beersheba, aus dem Pride-Haus in Beersheba. Der hat mit uns die Führung gemacht.
Na dann, let's go.
Aber
Warum? This is an interview for Pink Channel. In Hamburg, and we are staying in Pride House in Beersheba. And you are?
Hi, my name is Ariel Alvarez Pereira. I'm 38 years old and I volunteer at the Pride House. I've been living in Beersheba for 10 years and I'm one of the local activists here in the community.
From which do you come here to Beersheba?
So I'm actually half French, half Israeli. I was born in France. My parents are French. I grew up in Jerusalem as a kid, but then I spent most of my teenage years and young adult life in Strasbourg in France. And then I made Aliyah when I was 22. So I consider myself half-half.
You show us the city of Beersheba and you show us places of activism here in Beersheba, and you told us that it's a complicated story and not so easy story. Can you tell us something about the activism here in Beersheba, and especially in Beersheba, but also in Israel?
So what I think is very, very characteristic of the activism, the queer activism in Israel and in Beersheba especially, is resilience. There's a lot of recognition of the needs that are in the field, and then doing something to achieve the goal that we want. Beersheba has seen an incredible change in terms of the queer community in the last 10, 15 years, with a development of social work services for free at the house, social groups for for literally every population that would ask for it, a lot of cultural events, and it's completely local run and local based. So, the municipality is now a partner. They give us help, support, financially and organizational, but everything is really tailored to the needs of the community itself. Whenever we recognize a need, we are going to do our best to reach the goal. For example, there's a new clinic, medical clinic with a family doctor who gives prep and is very informed on pronouns and everything. And she is also in touch with the hospital, Soroka, which was one of the best and biggest hospitals in the country. So a medical student who was part of the committee of the Pride House realized that it's not okay that we don't have a gay clinic in Beersheba. Most trans people travel to the center to get very basic medical treatment that they need chronically, and this is not okay. And so she decided to take it upon herself to create a clinic, and then it happened. This is how it happened, and this has changed the life of a lot of people here.
So you have specialized trans issues in the medical system here in Beersheba?
I wouldn't say that we have for trans people a special facilities. We do have the basic. For example, I get treatment here. I do go once a year to Tel Aviv for the endocrinologist appointment. My friends who have gone through surgery also have to go to the bigger hospitals for checkups. But there is a lot more awareness and a lot more in the medical corps. I have seen a change in the way people address me, or people just know about the needs I have, the medical needs I have. When I say people, I mean medical, like doctors and nurses. We still have a long way to go. And this is the next goal of the community here, is to have also endocrinology and gynecology more accessible for the queer community.
So is there a legal way to transition for trans people, and are there any differences between trans women and trans men?
Yes and yes. So the way Israel categorizes trans people is through medical, how do you say, labeling, I would say. Trans people are considered by the government, by the Ministry of Finance, and by the Ministry of Health as disabled. They basically put us in the disabled category, which at first sounds really weird. The advantage is that there is a recognition of the special needs that the community has. There is a recognition of protection that this community needs. For example, we get a monthly pension automatically for being transgender and having hormone therapy, because it is understood that it's harder for people to find a job when you are transgender. For most places in Israel, the pension is not enough to live off, but it's a really good, nice first help. All the medical treatments, are taken care of by the Ministry of Health. Hormones are not subsidized completely, but very significantly, and surgeries are completely taken care of by the Ministry of Health in terms of finance. I will say that for surgeries, you have to go through a committee that can be lengthy for surgeries, and also for changing your sex in your documents. And the committee can last a while for several reasons. Again, because it's only in Tel Aviv, so if you don't live in Tel Aviv in the center, you have to travel. You have to go through several meetings with a psychiatrist for an assessment, because again, being trans in Israel is viewed as a medical issue and not a legal one, such as in France, for example. And so there are obviously advantages and disadvantages to that. in the last few years, 2 doctors specifically traveled to Mount Sinai, New York, to specialize in bottom surgeries for trans men and women. They just came back, and with them coming back, the waiting list for surgery has been cut down by half, which still means that instead of 3 to 6 years, you wait for 1 to 3 years. As a whole, trans women suffer a lot more transphobia in Israel than trans men. Israel is a very sexist binary society because it's more conservative in a lot of ways. And being a woman is, patriarchy is still pretty dominant here. Even not, it's dominant in a very, I would say, like, anti-Semitism is dominant in Europe. You know, it's like always been there, and even if there's a lot of progress, it's still there. So unfortunately, trans women are always more of a target than trans men. There are a lot of associations for trans people in Israel. Ma'avarim, Transiot Israel, which is specifically for trans women. And when I say trans people, it includes of any background: Arab, Jews, Druzes, Bedouins. There's no differentiation in the trans organizations. In terms of medical treatments, it's the same. There is no difference between trans women and trans men. They receive the same access to treatment, the same access to the pension that I mentioned. It's gonna be more about life, lifestyle support or lack of.
You talk about patriarchy. My experience is that trans people have to perform femininity, or if they want or if they don't want. So both groups of trans people have violence about the patriarchy. What's the situation in Israel?
I don't have statistics. I'm not, I'm talking from a very personal point of view. So I'm not sure how to answer in a very scientific way. What I can say is that in general in Israel, being feminine is as a man or as a woman is the less good option. So even for straight cisgender men who are a little bit feminine, it's gonna be more difficult, or trans women are going to be very, very, there's kind of a question of like why would you actually choose to be a woman? And I can say that as a trans man myself, I now pass as a homosexual, which means that people wouldn't necessarily know that I'm trans. They don't see it, but they definitely see that I'm feminine, and they associate it with being gay. I do get some gay bashing sometimes, walking around at night. Not as much as I used to as a woman, I will say. I don't know if that was your question.
My intention is much more harder, because we say in Germany 30% of people who are trans and 30% of people who grow up as a girl perceive sexual violence in their youth. So that's a big quote of patriarchal violence against people who perform femininity, and that's is the center of my question.
I see. Yes, I think in Israel it's also pretty high percentage. Unfortunately, I know that youth, the amount of harassment and risk that the young queer are at right now in Israel is pretty high. I know that when I was a counselor at the Israeli Gay Youth Movement, a lot of kids would come with stories of difficulties in school and how they were perceived not just by peers but also by the teachers. Again, there's a lot of progress made in that area. The mere fact that since the time I was a counselor to the time that I became a coordinator, which is 2 or 3 years, there was a drastic change in the kind of people who would come to IGI. when I was a counselor in the trans groups, a lot of teenagers would come and they would struggle with family support. They wouldn't have it, they wouldn't trust it. As a coordinator, I had parents call me to say that their kids came out as trans and they wanted to support them and they weren't sure how to start. So this was for me a very significant change to see. Obviously the kids would, come to activities and talk about things they would experience in school, struggles with bathroom and things like that, or pronouns from their peers and from the teachers. But I can say that having parents call and say, I want to support my child in the best way, is something that I did not imagine that I would see. Obviously, I will put an asterisk for the Arab, Bedouin and Druze populations where the families are a lot more problematic, a lot less supportive, and almost every year we know of a case, we know of, there are obviously more, but we know of one case at least a year where someone who came out as queer is chased down by their family and killed because of their identity. And that's the one number we know of.
You talk about PrEP. What's about sex work? What's about the situation of jobs?
So there is also a change in the way trans women start their journey as trans women in Israel. It used to be very linked to sex work. It used to be a kind of obligated passage, a rite of passage also, not just obviously for financial reasons, but also for being accepted as a trans woman in the community. Things are changing. There is still a big discrepancy between people who can afford to be trans and people who cannot, financially or with the support of their family. What I mean is that there is still a lot of sex work in the trans community, or trans people in the sex work community, depending how you look at it. There are clinics specifically for sex workers and trans sex workers to get treatment that they need and protection. As I said, the same change that I see in parents supporting their kids, I see in trans women entering the world of high tech in Israel. It's happening a lot more. The young generation of trans and non-binary people have a lot more access to regular jobs. Again, it's a change that's happening now, and it's very fluid.
You talk us that the young person doesn't identify as a trans person, they identify as a non-binary person. What happened there?
I think that as a whole, I think it's a global thing, not just in Israel. People are more educated about gender. I think that people are more open to experimenting with gender or gender roles or gender aesthetics. I think that what happens is there is also more accessibility to spaces where people can identify as whatever they want, and they will take that space. It doesn't mean that they will all be non-binary or be trans or, but the fact that there is a space for that, I think, is helping people taking that space.
So I understand I had right that the young people don't want to transition?
Not all of them. I mean, first of all, a young person that wants to transition cannot have surgery without the consent of their parents or hormone therapy, which can be problematic for those who, are suffering and don't have their family support. On the other hand, there's a lot of false information about people getting surgeries without anyone consenting to it, themselves or the parents. This is not something that happens here. You have to be 18 to get surgery, or you have to have your parents' permission. Everything is very monitored by doctors and medical teams.
We have complicated issues in our interview. What's about TERFs in Israel? TERFs, yeah, trans-exclusive radical feminists.
So I think it's a lot less prevalent than in other parts of the world in Israel, because, there is a rising of the influence from the United States in general in Israel as a culture, and around the issue of trans people, trans women, TERFs. That's definitely something that is happening, and everyone seems to agree that it comes from the United States, or it comes from outside. It's not something that's coming from inside. In general, the hate around trans people and trans women does not come from women.
You told us about the violence against queer people, and you told us about an issue in Tel Aviv. What happened there?
So what happened there is that there was at the time, there was already a youth sort of club branch of the Israeli gay youth movement, where young people were meeting and having activities together. And one night, a couple of, I think it was 2 terrorists came masked and with guns, and they killed whoever was inside. And to this day, we don't know who perpetrated the terrorist attack. We don't know if it was someone from the group who actually came and did that, or if it was someone completely exterior, and if it was a hate crime. The fact that the police didn't find anyone, raises the question of like, how much did they really try? But it was definitely a turn in the way queer people, I think, saw themselves in society, and decided to be more proactive in terms of our own safety, our own needs, our own demands for safety. I will also mention the murder of Shira Banki in the Jerusalem Pride 10 years ago. She was going to the Pride March in Jerusalem with her friends, and there was a Haredi man who was just released from parole, I think, or some hate crime that he had already done, and he was just released, and he stabbed her inside the march in Jerusalem. So there were a lot of witnesses, a lot of people saw what happened. He was arrested again, but this was seen also not just by the queer community, but in general as a whole by people in Israel as something that was extreme. A lot of people after that, a lot of non-queer or people who are not connected to the LGBTQ community changed their views, changed their mind on how to address the queer community. Even some rabbis decided to take a stance saying this is not okay. This is a limit that has been crossed, and this is you can think or say whatever you want about the queer community. You cannot go to those lengths.
In Germany, the queer community may be some sort of separated. How is the situation in Israel?
The main reason why I love the queer community in Be'er Sheva so much is that it's small. It's small, it's a family. There's older people, younger people. We're not enough people to start separating into groups. Obviously, as I said, there are social groups for people who want to meet up with, someone they look like or sound like or feel like. So, and there's a lot of social groups. There's at the Pride House today, there's a women group, there's trans group, 2 trans groups, one for trans women, one for whoever wants to be. There's an Arab group that meets somewhere else for anonymity reasons. There's a religious group, etc., etc. In Tel Aviv, in the center, you will find a lot more separation or subcategories because there's a lot more people. So you will find lesbian parties, gay saunas, and things like that. The separation is also a little bit political. There's a lot of noise around the surrogacy question, adoption for gay couples, and there's a lot of bitterness in the trans community about the fact that we're feeling a little bit left out when, it's great that gay men have more rights and can adopt and, can talk about surrogacy issues. We are still dying in the street. Kind of like that's the slogan, even if it's not totally right. So there is a little bit of, I would say, a two speeds movement between the center and the rest of Israel. That's true for everything. It's also true for the queer community.
How do you see the community in the future in Israel?
I really hope that we can reach a place where there's a lot more unity. There is already quite a good front, I would say, at least from cities that are not Tel Aviv. I know that all the organizations meet on a monthly basis, and even if they don't all agree politically, for example, or socially, they always reach a united front that they can bring to the government and to the Ministry of Welfare to try and advance everything necessary for the community. So I see and I hope that it continues that way, and that everything gets more, maybe a little bit less centralized. And I really, 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 really can see also that medical treatment, and when I say medical treatment, I'm also talking about IVF treatments and, getting whatever people need to create families and to be recognized as families by the law. These are the things we need right now. And again, as I said, being seen and celebrated as queers because we are alive and not because we are dying for the country.
If you have a wish and a wizard can make it real, what wish do you have?
I really want the war to stop. This war is unnecessary. It's obviously serving the interests of some people. It's not serving the interests of the populations of any country. Everyone is suffering. We need this to stop. And whoever was suffering before the war is suffering even more because of the war. And there are very few people, unfortunately, in charge who really want the war to happen, and a lot of people who are just done with it and do not trust that it's leading us anywhere.
Thank you for your good work, your fantastic work, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy.
Wie ihr gemerkt habt, ist das Interview auf Englisch geführt worden und alle weiteren Gespräche sind auch auf Englisch geführt worden, weil dankenswerterweise die meisten Menschen in Israel Englisch sprechen und es deshalb mühelos möglich war, diese Gespräche gemeinsam zu führen. Ich spreche jetzt mit Jonathan. Jonathan ist Pädagoge und Aktivist und arbeitet an der Schnittstelle zwischen Religion und LGBTIQ. Und wir haben uns über Konversionstherapie unterhalten und über die Bedeutung von Safe Spaces.
Fragen, Fragen, Fragen.
This is Jonathan for Pink Channel in Hamburg, momentarily in Tel Aviv. Jonathan, explain to our listeners what we are doing here in your organization and what organization is it?
Chavruta is an organization, an LGBT religious organization here in Israel. I am a co-chairperson of that organization. We try to create a place where religious people could be LGBT if they wish, but also a place for LGBT people to be religious if they wish. These are two separate things that we do. It is not the same. Creating a space where you have religion that is also for LGBTs is all about religion doing. It's inclusive religion. It's religion that is pro-LGBT, but it is about religion. While creating an LGBT space for religious people, that's LGBT activism. And that's a separate thing. And we really, really try to do both.
what I see, and excuse me, this question is that you have many feelings to it. Is it right?
I love it. I love it. It is also challenging. I myself, I would say that I feel more at home making a Jewish space, a religious space for LGBTs than the opposite. I mean, I also do the opposite. I also do advocacy. Sometimes I feel like I'm a professional gay, but still I'm more inclined. It's more fun for me to read texts together. That's the main thing I do as a teacher and as a linguist.
I'm interested in what you're saying about safe space. I think you have discussed with us a few of interested aspects. Can you repeat what is the problematic at a safe space?
A safe space can be a little bit. Sometimes societies choose to close themselves up within a ghetto. And a ghetto is a very difficult term because it has two separate meanings. Sometimes people, to protect themselves, they shun everyone away and they close themselves within a sector. But it's also sometimes people are shunned from society. These are the two meanings. I mean, the term ghetto has so many different meanings to it. And I think that's why I wanted to know if this might be too offensive or too, but I think that there's something true to it. When a society creates a safe space, it invites people to treat it as different, as other, and it's othering to itself, basically, the verb othering, right? It turns itself into the other, and that in itself has some dangers in it. I believe that polarization comes when people stop arguing, stop talking to each other. And when you have a safe space, you cannot argue within a safe space about certain things. In a safe space, it is a given that I have a right to exist. And that's important to have a safe space. Each person must have a safe space. But it is also important to argue with those who believe that I do not have a right to exist.
For me, it's interesting that you told us that there is energy necessary for a safe space. So that is not a space where people can be who they are. So because there are in the safe space are special rules.
Yes. A safe space requires inhibitions. You cannot have a safe space if everything is allowed. A safe space requires people to hold themselves back. Now, there are certain identities that in order to prosper, they need everyone to hold themselves back. As a teacher, for example, I know that at a certain age, in a classroom where you have boys and girls, you will have, and I'm now not talking about non-binary people, I'm talking specifically about boys versus girls. You see how the dynamics are that girls, in order to feel free to talk during a discussion, they need the boys to take a step back. They need the teacher to assign who can speak when. Whilst at a certain age, you see how boys feel more freely to interrupt, to say what they want, and they don't need the teacher to do that. Now, I'm talking about a very specific age and what they teach us as teachers to do with a classroom of boys and girls. But this rule is this is a general thing. Sometimes certain identities need, in order to prosper, they need other people to wait, to take a step back and make some room. And that is something that requires effort. It is not a natural thing to do, to acknowledge that there are other people who need me to make room for them. And it's a very good thing to do, but it's not a natural thing to do. It requires effort, it requires energy, it requires attention. And sometimes you see how different kinds of people need mutually exclusive safe spaces. Sometimes the safe space for one is toxic for another. So maybe you need to have several safe spaces for several types of people.
We talk about conversion practices. You have a different position to this issue.
I don't know if different. I would say, from an ethical point of view, I believe they are bad. And it's important for me to use that word, bad, wicked, evil. That being said, how do we tackle this? What is the best thing to do in order to minimize the damage? I believe that legalization, sometimes when you turn something into an illegal thing, the market still exists and people still want to purchase that kind of service. But they have a service of a lesser quality, a service that is more dangerous. Let us assume that for the discussion, let us assume that drugs are dangerous, and let us assume that we do not want anyone doing any kinds of drugs. Okay, if we say that all drugs are illegal, does it mean that less people consume drugs, or does it mean that those who consume drugs are in graver danger because they deal in a market that is all outside the norm? There is no normative market for drugs, so people who do use drugs end up with the worst kind of drugs possible. If you legalize some of them, then you enable all sorts of control, separating dangerous substances from less dangerous substances. You create a market that is within the norm, and a market within the norm is less dangerous than a black market. So if there is any possible way to have no market for conversion therapy, I'd live in that world happily. But I'm not sure that that is possible. Maybe we'll always have a black market of conversion therapy, and if that is so, I'd rather have a gray market than a black market.
Conversion practices to LGBTIQ Jews. Is this a real problem here in Israel?
Definitely. It's a problem here. I think it's a problem worldwide. Here in Israel, you have usages of religious practices as conversion practices. You have communities where a student would be required, in order to learn in an institution, to undergo conversion therapy. That exists. And we oppose that, and we try to fight that. But I always feel like I'm not certain if the way to fight it is education, is it academic, or is it legal, is it both? I don't know.
When you have a wish and a wizard can fulfill him, what wish is it?
There's a term in Hebrew religion, Beinoni. Beinoni means not excellent and not bad, just simple and okay. And there is a famous book, Sefer Atanya, that is called Sefer Shel Beinoniyim. It means a book supposedly for the mediocre. The writer did not mean really mediocre, but what he meant to say is that the demand for excellence can be a little bit dangerous, and people sometimes need the ability to be like normal. And I wish that religious LGBT identity would be a very mediocre thing, that we would not be demanded to be excellent, and we will not be demonized. I don't want the polarity. I don't want to be an angel. I don't want to be a demon. I want to be a human being, a simple, benign, mediocre human being.
This is a view from Germany. Thank you very much for your impressive work, and thank you for this interview.
Thank you. It has been a privilege.
Was haben wir denn als nächstes?
Ich habe auf dem Festivalgelände mit 2 Vorstandsfrauen von dem Bund der Löwinnen gesprochen. Das ist die Elternvereinigung in Israel für die Transkinder. Die haben 500 Familien als Mitglied, sind die einzige Organisation, die sich darum kümmert. Und Merav und Orli haben ein, wie ich finde, wichtiges Gespräch mit mir geführt und nochmal klar gemacht, dass Transkinder einfach ganz normale Kinder sind und die Eltern von Transkindern nur das Beste für ihre Kinder wünschen und dass die Situation ähnlich wie es in Deutschland ja auch sehr schwierig ist für Transkinder, auch die Situation in Israel extrem schwierig ist.
Ja, so ähnlich wie Transkindernetz, ne? Trakine bei uns in Deutschland.
Genau,
ja.
Das ist die vergleichbare...
Auch wichtig.
Ja, die vergleichbare Organisation. Und da es auf dem Festivalgelände geführt wurde, das Gespräch, hört ihr sehr deutlich, dass da ordentlich Stimmung war auf dem Festivalgelände. Es ist zum Teil etwas schwierig zu verstehen, was wir uns da gegenseitig erzählen, aber es war auch für uns extrem schwierig, uns auf das Gespräch zu konzentrieren. Wir bitten um Nachsicht.
Schnacken mit der Gästin. For Pink Channel in Hamburg today at Tel Aviv Pride. You work for organization for trans kids. What is the name of the organization and what is the work you do?
The organization called Brit Leviot. It's parents of trans youth and kids. We support the parents because the children are at home. So we need to support the parents to give them the information, to give them the the first act that they need when the kid get out from the closet, when he said, I'm a trans, and after the first shock, we give them all the information about education, about all the things about the change of name, change of gender in Israel. It's very difficult, and all the medication needs the information that they need.
Is there any possibility for Israeli kids to transition medically?
No, the first until 12 years old is just to change the gender,
the appearance, the haircut, the clothes.
Outside, and the name if it's a gender name, you know. Sometimes it's a girl name or a boy name. Around age 12, 13, they go to endocrinolog, and then they realize if they need to take blockers. Then after 3 years, we start with hormones. It's around 16, and around this age, we start to think and talk about surgery. But not all the trans do surgery, and some of them do the surgery when they grow up after 18.
How many children can get surgery before they're 18 years old?
They can't. They can't. And we don't want them to do this. Because of that, they take blockers. It's block the hormones. And then they have a lot of time to think. And as a parents, we have a lot of time to see if it's the right thing for them. And the decision is their decision that they need to do. Because sometimes that could be confused, but not everyone that is a trans is confused, and not everyone that is confused is a trans. So we want to give them the space to be themselves, but with all the things around them that support them to live a regular life, and then to come to that decision that sometimes is not reversible.
I understand the primary thing kids can do is social transition.
Sorry?
Yes. In the beginning, when a child is young and there hasn't started sexual development yet, there's nothing to be done except listen to them, love them, believe them, and help them do whatever is right for them to appear as they feel inside.
What is the most reaction you perceive what parents do when they hear their kids is trans? What do the parents do? Or are the parents in Israel friendly to their trans kids? Or what is the situation?
It depends. In our organization, we have 500 families. The first, it could be shocked. Some of the parents says, we see it. We saw it all the way, but we can't say nothing. Some of them got shocked and they didn't know what to do, and they didn't know what to do or what to say or how to support. They're really afraid because all the conversation that we have now that come from US about and from Europe about trans people. Only it's almost the first phase that I saw in Brit Leviot. After they realize that they are not alone, after that they realize that they're part of a big family, that they are not alone, and there is a lot of information. They go to our website, they read alone, they read a lot, they heard a lot from a lot of mothers, and then they understand that it's not so bad. Some of them told us that now that they know that they have their support for them, they could support the children.
How many groups do you have here in Israel? Only in Tel Aviv, or do you work in Jerusalem? Where do you work in Israel, and how do you work?
We work all around the country. We have 500 families from all over the country. There is a WhatsApp group. There is a meeting, area meetings. And sometimes we have a big meeting for all the families and a pool party. And they come from all around Israel. We give support to people all around.
Have you any support from official issues, like ministry or something? Do you get money?
That's a tough. That's yeah.
We get money from the המשרד לשוויון חברתי. A minute, she will check how to say the name of the office. But when Mai Golan, the minister of this office, she stopped all the money, and we didn't get any money from the government.
In USA, the Trump administration fights very hard against trans kids. How do you perceive the situation in the USA, and how is there any influence of what happens in the USA to Israel?
We are afraid because a lot of things come from USA to Israel. It's take a year and a half, and it's come. We see that we don't have minister money. We don't have money from the Knesset. We are afraid. Because of that, we have in schools, we support schools. We have Kava Keshet. It's mean that we come to school, we support them. Because the education minister do nothing. So we come to school, we support them, we give them tools, what they need to do when they have a trans student at school, at the university. But we do it with donation, with a lot of people that give us their time to do this.
When you look at the future, what are your expectations to the future? What will happen? Will the situation come better, or will the situation come better?
I'm an optimistic person. In Israel, for the last 3 years, you must be optimistic. If you are not, you can't live here. I hope that the election will change a lot of things, and one of them will be the support and the LGBT people and the family. So we cross our fingers and we pray to, I don't know, to who?
What are the elementary things that must be happen here in Israel to get the situation for trans kids better? What are your points?
Equality of rights. First of all, our children are just as equal as anybody else. They should be able to have kids. They should be able to get married. They should be able to get jobs easily. They should be able to get proper education without fearing for their life or for their mental health. Everything.
And to go outside at the street in Rothschild, in Tel Aviv, and not get hurt. Because last week, a transgender teenager got hurt in Rothschild in Tel Aviv.
It seemed like very normal wishes that all parents wishes to their kids.
We are a normal parents. We bring kids to the world. We want to support them. We love them, and the gender doesn't matter. We hug them, we kiss them, and we want to see them happy. I think that every parent wants to see his kids happy. So I'm just a mom.
So the central message is trans kids are absolutely normal kids.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
There are a lot of things other than being trans. There can be annoying teenagers. They can be sad. They can be. They're kids. They're just kids that want to live their life quietly, with health and happiness and the support of their loved ones. And if possible, of the entire society, which is a harder job that we do every day.
So, last question. When an elf or a wizard came and you have one wish, and the wish become true, what wish do you have?
Peace for everyone. Peace with all the people in the world. I think all the world now need it. In USA, here, everywhere. Peace. Let people live ever they want.
Yes, a world that's free where you can be who you are and not be scared and just live happily and peacefully. That's it.
So from Germany, I thank you both for the wonderful work you make. It's inspiring to see you here today. And in Germany we haven't any organization so mighty as your organization here in Israel. And in Germany the organization is much smaller. So it's very impressive for me to speak with you. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you very much.
And if there's an organization that's similar in many ways, they can contact us.
Ein Gespräch haben wir noch. Erzähl mal, worum geht es da? Mit wem hast du gesprochen?
Ich habe mit Julian Balul gesprochen. Julian war Sprecher der IDF, das sind die Israel Defense Forces, und hat eine klare Position zum Thema Queers for Palestine.
Forces klingt für mich so nach Armee.
Ja,
Okay.
Genau, er war Armeesprecher und er ist sehr bekannt geworden
verstehe.
in Israel, weil er den Social-Media-Account betreut hat, und da hat er ein Foto veröffentlicht von sich und seinem Freund Händchen halten. Das ist um die Welt gegangen.
Gab es da Probleme für ihn durch das Foto?
Ja, das war sicherlich nicht unkritisch für ihn, aber es hat dazu geführt, dass die israelischen Streitkräfte sich für das Thema geöffnet haben. Und es war sehr interessant für mich zu hören, dass in Israel die Streitkräfte häufig Innovationsmotor sind für queere Rechte, weil die einen Umgang damit finden müssen und queere Menschen integrieren müssen, sodass sie in dieser relativ konservativen israelischen Gesellschaft immer wieder eine Vorreiterrolle spielen.
Dann hat es sich ja für ihn auf jeden Fall oder für uns alle oder für alle alle queeren Israeli auf jeden Fall gelohnt, mit diesem Foto in die Offensive zu gehen. Starke Sache.
Aber warum?
Julian, is it right that I characterize you? You are a very famous face of the queer community in Israel.
On the French queer community, yeah, I'm pretty known in France. I'm going a lot on TV and French TV, especially things happen in Israel, and I'm especially, very active on Twitter, X, whatever, with a lot of accounts. But yeah,
You have a very strong position to the item Queers for Palestine.
yeah. In Israel you say that it's a chicken for KFC. Maybe the picture of on the internet. It's that I don't understand how it's even possible when you know the situation and the reality on the ground, not for LGBT in Israel and LGBTs in Arab countries or in Palestinian territories. If you know how gay people are treated in Palestinian territories, you cannot say such a thing. You can be for Palestinian state, you can be for Palestinian freedom, yeah, of course. But saying queers for Palestine and just ignoring totally the situation on the ground and ignoring and not even talking about Hamas once or Hezbollah or whatever, it's insane, because I'm totally okay with the fact that, you can be queers and pro-Palestinian, I understand that. But if you're unable in the same time of blaming Israel for what they say do in the Palestinian territories, for example, but also in the same time blaming the Palestinian society and the Hamas for what they do against their own population, I cannot understand that. You know what I mean?
Is there any possibility that you can live as a queer person in Palestine?
Yeah, if you're in the closet. Because, in Gaza, for example, they kill people, they throw them from rooftops. In Palestinian territories as well, it's very complicated. Some of the gay Palestinians are refugees also in Israel, because it's too dangerous to be in Palestinian territories. The situation of Israeli Arab gays is also complicated, but it's forbidden, it's illegal, it's not accepted. So that's the situation.
We discuss in this evening the question, what can we do in Germany to make the situation better, to make the discussion better?
I think that what can be done, first of all, is to understand that it's not about the Jews. The terror organization and the ideology that is behind this is a threat for everyone, for women, for Christians, for Jews, for gays, for lesbians, for transgender, for journalists, for all the minority, for all the enemies of freedom. They use our weaknesses, they use our platforms, they use our laws to get free, to be free to do whatever they want against us in their country. And we need to protect our democracies against this.
Last question. If you have a wish what can fulfill a wizard, what wish would you have?
Well, first of all, for us, I hope there won't be a war anymore. First of all, I hope that we'll have a great Friday weekend, Pride week, and quiet for everyone. I hope that what we had before the COVID, that was, a lot of gay people from Europe used to come here on vacation and know each other and, get to know the situation, will continue. And I hope that at some point people will start talking about the situation of LGBT inside the Arab countries. And, just open their eyes about the situation, and maybe they will start helping them, and they will start talking about that, not only when it's related to Israel, but also when it's just related to them. Because the only cases that they talk about the Palestinian, it's when it's related to Israel. They don't care about the Palestinian when it's not related to Israel.
Thank you for your fantastic work and thank you for this interview.
Danke.
Das war sie, unsere Sondersendung zu Israel.
Danke, Cornelia, dass du diese Reise gemacht hast. Danke, dass du gesund wieder zurückgekommen bist. Und danke, dass du diese Interviews mit uns geteilt hast.
Ich hoffe, das stärkt die Perspektive und eine differenzierte Sicht auf Israel. Das war mir wichtig und das war natürlich auch der israelischen Botschaft wichtig, die, wie ich finde, uns einen guten Einblick in die Situation queerer Menschen in Israel nahegebracht hat.
Ja, das war's für heute. Dann wünsche ich euch noch einen schönen Sommer. Genießt die Zeit, habt viel Spaß und trinkt ordentlich.
Tschüss, Daniel.
Tschüss, Cornelia.